People say a house can feel your fear. This one did. Every morning before the sun fully woke up, Eli stepped through the tall gates with quiet feet and careful hands. He was a male Omega, small in voice, gentle in nature, and dressed in simple clothes meant for work, not notice. His job was to clean, serve, and stay invisible. And in this house, that was the safest way to live. The home belonged to two alpha brothers. Ronan was the first. His presence filled rooms like a storm. He spoke little, but when he did, his words were sharp and cold. He believed strength meant control and weakness deserved no mercy. To him, Omegas were fragile things that caused trouble. Eli felt Ronan's dislike every time their eyes met, and learned quickly to look away. Kale was different. Quieter. Thoughtful. He watched more than he spoke. While he never broke rules, his silence carried less weight and more care. Kale noticed things others ignored, like how Eli's hands shook when voices grew loud, or how he worked harder when praised even softly. Eli had come to the house with nothing but hope and a letter offering work. His past was full of closed doors and broken promises, so this job mattered more than comfort. Each day he scrubbed floors until they shined, folded clothes with care, and kept his pain hidden behind polite smiles. But peace never lasts long in a place built on power. Other workers whispered when Eli passed. Some were kind. Others were not. Omegas were often blamed first, trusted last. Eli knew this and stayed silent, believing hard work would protect him. He believed if he caused no trouble, none would come. He was wrong. That night, something small went missing. Nothing important. Nothing rare. But the blame fell fast, and it fell on Eli. Ronan's voice echoed through the hall like thunder. Accusations were thrown before questions could be asked. Eli tried to speak, but fear stole his words. His hands trembled as he bowed his head, heart racing, knowing truth did not always matter. Kale watched from the side, his eyes narrowing. Something about this felt wrong. And Eli, standing alone under the weight of another's anger, did not yet know this moment would change everything. His pain, his strength, and the life growing quietly inside his future. This was only the beginning. The next morning did not bring peace. It brought silence, the heavy kind that pressed down on Eli's chest as he worked. No one spoke to him. No greetings. No small kindnesses. The house felt colder than before, as if the walls themselves had decided who to believe. Eli moved from room to room, cleaning as usual. He washed floors, wiped tables, and folded clothes with the same care he always did. But his hands shook more than normal. Every sound made him flinch. Every step in the hallway made his heart jump. He knew what the whispers meant. They thought he was a thief. When Ronan entered the room, the air changed. His sharp eyes locked onto Eli, filled with anger that had not cooled overnight. He did not ask questions. He did not listen. He spoke as if the truth was already decided. "You had no right," Ronan said coldly. Eli opened his mouth to answer, but the words would not come. Fear wrapped around his throat. He bowed his head instead, a silent habit learned from years of survival. To Ronan, that silence looked like guilt. The punishment was simple but cruel. Extra work. No rest. No chance to explain. The other workers watched and said nothing. Some felt sorry for him. Others felt relieved it was not them. Eli felt something deeper than pain. He felt forgotten. Kale saw everything. He noticed how Eli's steps slowed as the day went on. How his shoulders drooped under the weight of unfair blame. When no one was watching, Kale placed a cup of water near Eli and said nothing. It was a small act, but to Eli, it felt like light in a dark room. That night, Eli sat alone in the small room given to servants. His body ached. His heart hurt worse. He wondered if working harder would ever be enough. He wondered if being kind mattered at all in a world ruled by power. Still, he refused to give up. Eli pressed a hand against his chest and breathed slowly. He reminded himself that pain did not last forever. That tomorrow was another chance. That surviving was its own kind of strength. But as he closed his eyes, one truth stayed with him like a shadow. In this house, kindness could be dangerous. And trust could break you. Eli learned quickly who smiled at him, and who watched him too closely. Among the workers was a man named Merrick. He spoke softly and laughed easily. When others avoided Eli, Merrick did not. He shared meals with him and spoke kindly, saying things like, "You don't deserve how they treat you, and you're different from the stories they tell." After days of silence and blame, those words felt like warmth. Eli should have been careful. But loneliness makes people trust faster than they should. One quiet evening, while folding clean clothes, Eli spoke without thinking. He told Merrick that he dreamed of a peaceful life, somewhere small where no one judged him for being an Omega. He said he only wanted safety. A place to belong. Merrick listened. He nodded. He smiled. And then he left. By the next morning the house was buzzing with whispers. Eli felt it before he understood it. Doors closed when he walked past. Conversation stopped. Eyes followed him again, colder than before. This time the lie was bigger. Merrick told Ronan that Eli had planned to steal and run away. That he talked badly about the alphas. That he could not be trusted. The story spread fast, growing sharper with each retelling. Ronan believed it. Anger burned brighter than before. To Ronan this was proof. Proof that kindness toward an Omega was a mistake. Proof that Eli was exactly what he feared. Eli was called forward. He tried to speak. He tried to explain. But his voice was small, and the room was loud with judgment. No one asked Merrick to repeat the story. No one asked Eli for truth. The decision came fast. Eli was told to leave. Not tomorrow. Not after rest. No. Rain poured outside as Eli was pushed toward the gates with only a small bag. His clothes were soaked in seconds. His heart felt heavier than his steps. He looked back once, hoping just a little, that someone would stop this. Cale was gone that day. The gates closed behind Eli with a sound that felt final. As he walked into the storm, tears mixed with rain. He had trusted the wrong person. He had believed kindness meant safety. The house he tried to serve had chosen lies over truth. But something changed inside him that night. The Omega who walked away was no longer just afraid. He was learning what betrayal felt like. And that lesson would shape everything that came next. The rain did not stop when Eli left the house. It followed him down the road, soaking his clothes and weighing down his steps. By the time night fell, his body was tired and his heart felt empty. Every sound made him turn around, but no one came looking for him. The truth settled in quietly. He was truly alone now. Eli found shelter under the roof of an old storage shed near a small village. It was not warm, but it was dry. He curled up on the floor and held his bag close, as if it were the last proof that he existed. Sleep came slowly, broken by fear and memories he wished he could forget. When morning came, the world looked different. The rain had washed the dust from the road. The air smelled clean. Eli stepped into the village with unsure feet, expecting more rejection. But instead of sharp looks, he met tired faces and gentle voices. A woman selling bread noticed how pale he looked and offered him food without asking questions. An old man pointed him toward a place where travelers could rest. Eli did not cry. He accepted the kindness quietly, learning that not all doors were closed to him. Days passed. His strength returned little by little. He helped where he could, sweeping floors, carrying water, doing small tasks to earn his place. For the first time in a long while, no one shouted at him. No one accused him of things he did not do. One evening, as Eli rested his hands on his stomach, he felt something change. A deep knowing settled in his chest. The truth was gentle but powerful. He was carrying a child. Fear rushed in first, then wonder. Then a quiet sense of purpose he had never felt before. This life inside him was small, unseen, but real. It needed him. And for the first time, Eli felt needed in a way that mattered. He made a promise that night. No matter how hard the world became, he would protect this child. He would not let fear decide his future. He would grow stronger, not for revenge, not for anger, but for love. The pain of betrayal still hurt. The memory of cold words still lingered. But Eli was no longer broken in the way others hoped. He was still standing. And somewhere far away, the house he left behind had not yet realized what it had lost. The house did not feel the same after Eli left. At first, no one spoke his name. Work continued. Meals were served. Orders were given. But something small and quiet was missing, and over time, that absence grew heavy. Cale noticed first. He returned to the house late that evening, travel dust still on his coat. As he walked through the halls, his eyes searched without meaning to. The corners were too clean. The servant hallway was too quiet. When he asked where Eli was, the answers came fast, and none of them made sense. He was dismissed. He was a problem. He lied. Cale did not accept easy answers. He asked questions. He listened. He watched how people avoided his eyes. When he finally spoke to Merrick, the worker who had told the story, Cale noticed the hesitation, the shifting words, the way the truth bent under pressure. And then it broke. The lies spilled out. Cale felt something cold settle in his chest. He went straight to Ronan. The truth hit like a blade. Ronan stood silent as Cale explained everything. The missing item found where Merrick hid it, the false words, the rushed judgment. For the first time, Ronan did not argue. His hands clenched. His pride cracked. He had been wrong. Worse than wrong, he had been cruel. The memory of Eli's bowed head returned, sharper now. Ronan realized that silence had not been guilt. It had been fear. And he had chosen power over fairness. Regret does not shout. It sits quietly and grows. Cale's voice was calm but firm. Eli didn't run. He was pushed. That was when they learned the final truth. Eli had left in the rain. Alone. And word from the village said he was an Omega carrying a child. The room felt suddenly too small. Ronan's breath caught. The anger he once aimed outward turned inward, burning hot and heavy. He had chased away someone fragile and precious, without ever listening. Cale made the decision quickly. We find him, he said. Not to command. Not to force. But to make it right. Ronan nodded slowly. This time there was no pride in his eyes. Only resolve. Outside, the gates stood open, quiet witnesses to a mistake already made. But somewhere beyond them Eli was still alive. And the road they would walk to reach him would not be easy. Eli saw them before they saw him. The village square was small, filled with the soft noise of daily life. Children ran past with laughter. Merchants called out their prices. Eli stood near a wooden stall, holding a basket, his posture straighter than it used to be. He looked healthier now, steadier. But the past had taught him to always be alert. When the two alphas stepped into the square, the air seemed to shift. Ronan walked ahead, his steps firm but slower than before. Cale followed closely, his eyes searching, not with anger but with worry. They looked out of place among the quiet homes and simple people. Eli's heart tightened. For a moment old fear tried to rise. His hands trembled. Then he breathed in and stood still. He was not the same Omega who had been sent away in the rain. Cale spoke first. He said Eli's name softly, like it mattered. Ronan said nothing at first. His pride held him back even now. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. He admitted they had been wrong. He said the house had believed lies. He asked Eli to return. Eli listened. He did not interrupt. He did not bow his head. When he spoke, his voice was calm but firm. He reminded them of the cold night, the closed gates, the way no one had listened. He said returning was not an option. The village watched quietly. Cale apologized without excuses. He did not ask for forgiveness, only for a chance to protect Eli now. Ronan struggled, his words heavy and imperfect, but honest. He said he had learned too late what strength really meant. Eli looked at them both. Trust did not return in one moment. Pain does not disappear because someone is sorry. Eli told them he would not go back. Not yet. Not without proof that things could be different. Ronan stiffened, but Cale nodded. We'll stay nearby, Cale said. If you allow it. Eli agreed, but only on his terms. As the alpha stepped back, Eli felt something unfamiliar. Not fear. Control. This meeting did not erase the past, but it changed the future. Enemies had faced each other, and for the first time the power was balanced. The story was no longer about who ruled. It was about who would change. Healing did not arrive like a sudden sunrise. It came slowly in small moments that were easy to miss. Eli stayed in the village just as he said he would. He kept working, kept helping, kept living the quiet life he had begun to build. The alphas did not force their way back into his world. True to Cale's word, they stayed nearby, close enough to help, far enough to respect his space. That alone mattered. Cale showed his care through actions. When Eli struggled to carry heavy water buckets, Cale stepped in without speaking, then stepped away without expecting thanks. When food was short, supplies appeared quietly at the door, never announced. Cale watched Eli not like someone fragile, but like someone strong who deserved support. Ronan found this harder. Patience did not come naturally to him. More than once, he opened his mouth only to close it again. The words he once used so easily now felt dangerous. Instead of commands, he learned to listen. Instead of judging, he learned to wait. Eli noticed. He did not forgive them. Not yet. But the sharp edge of his anger softened. He began to understand that healing did not mean forgetting, it meant choosing what came next. Some nights, fear still woke him. The past still whispered. On those nights, Eli reminded himself of his promise. He rested his hands gently on his stomach and breathed. This life depended on him. And that made him stronger than fear. One afternoon, trouble came looking for him. A stranger from the old house appeared, spreading cruel words again. The lies were familiar. For a moment, the village grew quiet. Eyes turned toward Eli. This time, Eli did not lower his head. He spoke clearly. He told the truth. He did not rush. He did not beg. Cale stood beside him without hesitation. Ronan stepped forward too, his voice firm, his presence steady. He defended Eli openly without anger, only certainty. The stranger left in silence. Something shifted after that. Eli realized he was no longer standing alone. The past had tried to break him, but it had not won. Healing was not fast, was not easy, but it was real. And for the first time, Eli allowed himself to believe that the future might hold more than survival. It might hold peace. The trouble did not end with words. It rarely does. A few days after the stranger left the village, Eli felt the tension return. Whispers moved faster than truth. Old fears tried to creep back into his chest, reminding him how easily lies once destroyed his life. But this time Eli did not shrink from them. He prepared himself. When Merrick finally appeared, drawn by anger, shame, and the need to protect his own lies, Eli recognized him instantly. The same false smile. The same eyes that never truly looked at him. Merrick spoke loudly, accusing Eli again, trying to turn the village against him just as he had before. But the past no longer controlled the present. Eli stepped forward before anyone else could speak. His voice did not shake. He told the full truth, about the missing item, the lies, the punishment, and the night he was sent away in the rain. He spoke slowly, clearly, and without hatred. He did not need it. Cale stood beside him, calm and unmovable. Ronan stood on his other side, his presence firm and protective. This time Ronan did not let anger lead him. He used it as strength. He confirmed Eli's words. He admitted his own mistakes. And he named the lie for what it was. The village listened. Merrick had nowhere to hide. No one defended him. When he left, it was in silence, his power gone. That was Eli's revenge, not pain, not shouting, but truth spoken aloud with witnesses. Afterward Eli felt lighter. Revenge, he learned, was not about hurting someone back. It was about refusing to stay small. It was about choosing dignity over fear. That night Eli sat under the stars, the air calm and cool. Cale spoke of building something better. Ronan promised protection, not control. Both waited for Eli's answer without pressure. Eli looked at the quiet village, at the path he had walked alone, and at the two alphas who had changed, not perfectly but honestly. For the first time he allowed hope to settle fully in his heart. He was no longer the Omega who was blamed and cast out. He was someone who stood strong. And this strength would shape the family still to come. Love did not arrive loudly. It arrived quietly, like trust rebuilding itself piece by piece. After the truth was spoken and the past was finally faced, life in the village slowed again. Eli returned to his daily work, but something inside him had changed. He no longer felt like he was waiting for the ground to fall away. He felt steady. Cale and Ronan stayed. Not as owners. Not as rulers. Just as people choosing to be present. Cale's care was gentle and thoughtful. He asked before helping. He listened more than he spoke. When Eli talked about his worries, Cale did not rush to fix them. He simply stayed and made space for Eli's feelings to exist. Ronan's love looked different. He struggled with words, but his actions spoke clearly. He walked Eli home when the roads were dark. He stood watch when fear tried to return. He no longer raised his voice. Instead he learned to lower it. Each small effort was a promise that he was trying to be better than the man he once was. Eli noticed everything. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky soft gold, Eli spoke the truth he had been holding back. He told them that love frightened him. That being an Omega had taught him how easily care could turn into control. Cale nodded. Ronan listened. Together they made a choice. There would be no ownership. No orders. No fear. Eli would decide his own future, and they would walk beside him only if he wished it. Eli felt something warm settle in his chest. This was not the love he had imagined as a boy. It was not loud or perfect. It was patient. It was built on respect. It made room for mistakes and for growth. He looked at both alphas and realized something important. They loved him differently. And he loved them too. Not because he needed protection, but because he chose them. That night Eli placed a hand over his stomach and smiled softly. The child inside him would be born into something new. Not power. Not fear. But family. A family chosen with care. The morning sun spilled gently across the village, painting rooftops gold and turning the streets warm and quiet. Eli woke early, his hand resting on his stomach, feeling the small life inside him move. For so long he had feared the world. For so long he had wondered if kindness, trust, or love could truly last. Now he felt something new, peace. Cale was already awake, moving quietly through the small home they had built together. He paused to glance at Eli with a soft smile, the kind that did not demand anything in return. Across the room, Ronan leaned against the doorway, strong and calm, his eyes full of a fierce warmth that Eli had once been afraid of but now trusted completely. They were different in their ways, but both had come to stand beside him fully and honestly. The house they shared was simple but safe, filled with the light of a life they had all fought to create. Eli's heart swelled with gratitude. The past, the betrayal, the lies, the pain, was still there, but it no longer had the power to control him. He had survived. He had healed. And now he was loved. When the time came, Eli gave birth in that quiet home, surrounded by the two alphas who had once been his enemies. Cale held his hand steadily, whispering words of encouragement. Ronan stood close, his presence a shield, his eyes never leaving Eli. And when the child cried for the first time, Eli felt a joy so deep it erased months of sorrow. It was not a magic cure, not a sudden end to hardship, but it was hope made real. As the day passed, laughter and quiet conversation filled the rooms. Ronan learned how to gently rock the child without fear of breaking anything. Cale hummed softly, creating a rhythm that soothed everyone. And Eli, the once quiet Omega, realized that he had not only survived the storms of his past but had built a family strong enough to withstand any challenge. Outside, the sun rose higher, casting warmth over the village. The air smelled of fresh earth and possibility. Eli looked at his family, two alphas who had changed, who had grown, who had chosen him. And he knew, finally, that love could heal even the deepest wounds, that revenge could be found in survival and dignity, and that trust, once earned, could create something unbreakable. This was their home, their beginning, their forever. And for Eli, Cale, and Ronan, the story was no longer about enemies. It was about family.